Hello, I'm Jamie Mackay, and today we will be going over some basic guitar concepts. Um, the last video we talked about functionality and components of the guitar. Today we're just going to talk about simple techniques like how to hold the guitar, your posture, how to hold the plectrum, the names of the strings, the note names, and we're going to try some chords, some different chord shapes. So let's start off with the name of the strings. So from lowest, we've got E, and then next is A, and then D, and then we have a G string, B string, and then our highest string is another E. So we've got two E's. One's the low string, one's the highest string. So the next thing is how to hold the plectrum. So I'll do a close up of this. But the way you want this is you want your thumb, say your thumb's pointing in that direction, the pick should point down, so this pointy part of the plectrum. If your thumb is facing one way, the plectrum should point down. And your index finger should point the same direction as the point of the plectrum. So that's essentially it. Sometimes, if you're a beginner, you might have a little bit more space of the point and really grab the end. And if you want to get, if you're doing a lot of picking, sometimes it's better to have it short and pointy. But this is the basic way of how to hold the plectrum. So next I want to talk about finger placement. I mentioned in the video on the functionality that you don't want to play on the fret because it will choke the note and it will sound terrible. You want to play between the frets. So that sounds much nicer when you play there. And the way when we're thinking of chords or just reading guitar tab in general, we have our index finger, which is going to be, we're going to call that 1. It's going to be finger 1. Your middle finger, which is going to be 2. Your ring finger, which is going to be 3. And then your pinky is 4. So first finger, second finger, third finger, fourth finger. So if we are wanting to make a chord, and we'll start with a nice easy one. Basically, I'm just going to go through, I'm not going to go through every chord, but we'll go through most of them, and I'll show you the different shapes that we use for those chords. Because you can play a chord in many places, the same chord in different places. A chord is essentially a root, a fifth, and a third. So we'll start with probably what I think is the easiest one, and it's the A chord. And for that shape, the shape that we're using there for the A chord, and this is the best way to remember as well, the different shapes, is that shape, we'll call it the A shape. Because most beginners, that's the first A, the first way they learn to play A, the chord A. Okay, so I'm not going to go into too much into music theory, but I will brush on it. I just want to show you how to play them. So our A chord, and that's our A shape, remember that. I prefer just to use one finger. There's different situations where you would hold this differently. So you could have the way I see most people when they're beginning play this is So we're fretting 3 strings for this chord, and 2 of them are open. So this is our A, so this is the root of the chord. That's going to be open, and our E is going to be open. And in between those, on our 2nd fret, so this is the way I see most beginners do it, is they'll have the first finger on the 2nd fret of the D string, middle finger on the 2nd fret of the G string, 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the B string. And this might be good for, building strength in each finger. But when it comes to changing chords, I like to just use my middle finger, the 2nd finger, to fret this chord. So instead of having individual finger for each string, we're just going to have our 2nd finger, okay, middle finger cover the 2nd fret of the D, G, and B strings. And we get that. And that's nice. We could also do it with our first. This is just a way of freeing up what's around you. So sometimes you'll hear something like that chord. That's a sort of suspended chord. It's not possible when you've got all 3 fingers doing that. So anyway, that's our A. I would recommend using your middle finger for that one, because it frees up 3 other fingers to do stuff, either behind that fret or above it. So that's our A. And also, so we'll use our plectrum, and it's just a nice, smooth. Can you hear those strings? We're just kind of driving our arm down there. And so the next one I'll talk about, and we'll just go in alphabetical order for these. So we have B, but that's just the same shape as the A. We've just moved it up 2 frets. And how I like to play that one is with my first finger, so index finger, first finger on 2nd fret of the A string. So that's now B. That's the chord B. So root note. And then you can either play it with your 3rd finger or 4th finger. Sorry. So we're also this E string, the high E. We're going to bar this chord. So this is also known as a bar chord. So we're going to bar the 2nd fret, and so we'll have 2nd fret on the B string, on the A string, making a B, and then we've got 2nd fret on the E string, and that should make an F sharp. And in between those, we're going to use our. So again, we can have the A concert where we use the rest of our fingers. So 2, 4th fret on the D string, 3, 4th fret on the G string, and our 4th finger, 4th fret on the B string. It uses all. We're only using the bottom 5 strings, really. Or we can do what we've done with our A and use either our pinky, the 4th finger, or a ring finger, 3rd finger, to bar that instead. And again, it can just free up fingers. You never know when you're going to need them if you're going to be solo in between chords. So that's B, and then we're going to go to C, and this is a different chord shape. This is our C chord. So how we're going to do that? If we do the simple version, so again, not using the the bottom E string. We're going to go to the 3rd fret on our A string. So that's our note C, so the root of the chord. And then with our 2nd finger, we're going to go to the 2nd fret on the D string. Our G string will be open, so we don't fret that one. And then our 1st finger is going to go on the 1st fret of the B string. And then we have our open high E. So played all together. That's our C chord, and that's our C shape. Next is D, and this is quite an easy chord actually. Think of a triangle sort of shape when you think of this one. And this one, because we've got a D there, that's our root note, so that's open. And then first finger on the second fret, and then we have our third finger on the third fret of the B string, and lastly we have our middle finger, aka second finger, on the second fret of the E string. So open D, second fret of the G string with our first finger, third fret of the B string with our third finger, and second fret of the E string with our second finger. And that's our D. That's our D chord. Next, and this is another chord that you'll be using a lot, I imagine, is the E chord. This is the shape you'll be using. So that's our E chord. Open E string is the root note. And then we have our fifth, which is if we have our second finger on the second fret of the A string, and then our third finger is going on the second fret of the D string. Our first finger is going on the first fret of the G string, and then we have the open B string and open E string, and all together it sounds like this. We have our F. Wasn't going to go through every chord, but there is enough of a difference. So our F is the same shape, but we've moved it up one. So now it's our E shape, but because we've moved it up, we're having to use our first finger, which was holding the first fret of the G string. But now on the F, we need to bar the first fret, because that's our root note, and our root note is also down there. So bar the first fret with our first finger, and then our third finger is going to go on the third fret of the A string. Our fourth finger is going to go on the third fret of the D string, and our second finger is going to go on the second fret of the G string. And then because our first finger is barring the E, it also bars the first fret of the B string, and then we're barring the first fret on the E string. So that sounds like this. And this is one of the most, like, this and the B chord are the ones you're going to see in most rock music. Is those shapes, those two chords didn't go too nicely together, but these are our bar chords. So our F chord is our bar chord, and our B chord is our bar chord. And because you can move, this is F there, but we took away our. So that was another way to play it. Is to move that down. You can play your E chord like that as well. And that's a G. It's just the same shape. But last but not least, the G chord. And this is the last sort of different shape. And it's also the last note. So this is our G. We want to have our third finger on the third fret of the E string. So that's G, or root note. And then our second finger is going to go on the second fret of the A string. And then our D string is open. Our G string is open. Our B string is open. And then our fourth finger is going to be on the third fret of the E string, the high E string. And all together, that sounds like this. So just a quick recap, a quick run through of all those chords. We've got A. I'm using it with just my second finger. Got B, which is one of the power chords. We have C, that was the new shape. We have our D. We have our E chord. And if we go up one, drag all that up, we've got our power chord, our F. And last but not least, we have our G chord. Now, all those chords I've just shown you are major chords. And I will go through now the minor chords. So we're going to have major or minor chords. And if we just go through those shapes again, you know, this is where I would start using different fingers for different positions. But essentially, what we're doing when we have our minor chords is we're flattening the third. So on our A, the third was on the second fret of the B string. Going to move that down one, and how we're going to play this, so this is our A minor. Hear that different sound. So this is an A minor. It's following the notes that are from the minor scale. So how we're going to play this one. So we're going to have open A again. We're going to have our second finger on the second fret of the D string. Our third finger on the second fret of the G string. And our first finger on the first fret of the B string. And then we're going to have our E string open. So that is our A minor. And for B minor, go to that shape that we had with the B major chord. So we're still fretting the second fret with our first finger. The way I'd play this one though is so first finger on the second fret of the A string, third finger on the fourth fret of the D string, fourth finger on the fourth fret of the G string, second finger on the third fret of the B string, and then because we've fretted the second fret with our first finger, that last note is going to be second fret of the E string. So that's what that sounds like. And for the C, we would really just use the same shape. We just go up one and do it there. We can do it and it would sound like this. It doesn't. That's our C minor there. So our D minor next. Is we're just going to move our second fret and E string down to the first fret. So open D, second finger on the second fret of the G string, fourth finger on the third fret of the B string, and our first finger on the first fret of the E string. That is our D minor chord. And now to our E minor chord, which is possibly the easiest chord of all. It just takes two fingers. So we're going to have our open E, second finger on the second fret of the A string, third finger on the second fret of the D string, and then our G, B, and E are going to be open strings. Just like that. And then F, going to our power chord. All we're doing is lifting up our second finger, our middle finger. So we're going to bar the first fret with our first finger. We're going to have our third finger on the third fret of the A string, our fourth finger on the third fret of the D string, and then our first finger is barring our G, B, and E strings. There we go. And then we do the same for G. Those are the easiest way to play minor chords. we wouldn't really try turn this C shape into a minor. It's easier just to play it there. It's the same with G. It's easier to just play it the way you would play an F minor. Yeah, and so now we can look at some strumming patterns. Just going to keep it very simple, and we'll just go over what I would like to go over in our next video, which is a 12-bar blue. So if we use our A major, so we can start by just going down, just 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then change to our D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Oh, sorry. So yeah, I'll save this one for the next video. But so A, we'll just do all the strumming on the A chord. So you want to hold it tight. Can be loose with it. Just don't drop the string. Just going down and back up. And as we come up, it's more likely we're going to hit the bottom notes, the higher strings, and when we strum down, we're hitting the thicker notes first. You hear that? Okay, so now that we've gone through how to hold the plectrum, some chords, when we're doing this, we want to have our backs fairly straight. We want to have a nice posture. You don't want to slouch too much, you'll get back problems. You don't want to be holding the neck up with your left hand or right hand. You know, if you're if your fretting hand's your left hand like me, you don't want to be holding this thing up while you're playing. You want to have a nice balance. It is going to tilt on that slide a little bit. But yeah, you just want to have a nice balance. And the way you hold these chords with your thumb, you don't want your thumb to be poking over like that. There's some guitarists that do that. I've seen Jimi Hendrix do that. You can do the thing where you catch the top note. Just make it comfortable for yourself just now. So you don't want to be too far over. You don't want to be too far down the back. You want it to be nice and comfortable. And in the different chords, you're going to change position. So yeah, just have a nice posture. You know, even I catch myself doing this where I'm, bending over looking at the guitar. It's just going to give you neck problems, back problems. The other way is I have this sitting on my right knee. This is comfortable for me. You may see some guitarists like to sit like this, and that will give you some nice access up here. But your arm might get tired, having your left arm extend all the way up here. So I like to put it on my right knee instead. So yeah, the best strumming pattern to really practice is just that up and down. Another thing, if we go to our power chords that was shown you, so they're like our F and our B. If we move them around, we can get the other chords. And there's a thing called palm muting, where it is what it says. You're taking this side of your palm and you're just lightly putting pressure on the strings, and it kills the stem of the note. So here's me just. Is there an E chord there? Strumming it open. Now I'm palm muting. See how that killed the sustain? And if I turn it up and get a bit drive going, I'm sure you've heard that you get that really classic rock sound. as opposed to. So it's just a bit of dynamics there, just from lightly putting a bit of pressure on the strings. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for watching, and have a lovely day.